Have you ever felt like you're just drowning in information? You're trying so hard to figure out what actually matters, but you just end up feeling, well, exhausted?
Oh, absolutely. We've all been there.
Exactly. And you just wish someone could cut through all that noise, Just pull out the really important bits, those aha moments.
Give you the core insights without the headache.
That's precisely what we aim for here on the deep dive. We sift through loads of sources, could be articles, studies, notes, you name it, and we pull out the critical stuff.
Giving you a shortcut to being properly informed, basically.
And today we are plunging into something truly fascinating and, frankly, a bit unsettling at times.
Yeah, this one gets pretty real.
Our source material is really unique this time. It's from a Twitter space hosted by Alberto Daniel Hill, the cybersecurity expert.
Right, so not a polished report or anything?
Not at all. It was live, dynamic, incredibly candid, a real conversation happening in real time between cybersecurity pros and enthusiasts.
Like being a fly on the wall?
Exactly. An unfiltered look at the big issues, the frustrations, everything bubbling up in the industry right now. It's just a gold mine of raw, genuine insight.
And our mission here, our goal for you listening, is to pull out the absolute most critical stuff from that live discussion. Because it really gets into these pervasive vulnerabilities.
Pervasive is the word, touching everything.
Everything. Critical infrastructure, yeah, but also medical devices, things keeping people alive. And it's not just the tech side.
Wow.
No, it also gets into the often disheartening reality for the researchers themselves and people actually trying to make things safer.
Okay, so the human element too.
Definitely. And it all points to this urgent, almost desperate need for systemic solutions. Because we rely so much on all this interconnected tech and the stakes, well, they just couldn't be higher.
And trust me, you are going to hear some things today that might really surprise you. Maybe shift how you think about how secure your world, digital and physical, actually is.
Yeah, it goes beyond the usual tech talk.
Yeah, totally. This isn't just jargon. It's about real-world impacts, stuff that affects every single one of us, whether you realize it yet or not. So, yeah, buckle up. This is going to be quite the journey. Illuminating? Maybe a little worrying.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's unpack this. First off, maybe not everyone's familiar with Twitter Spaces. It's not like a studio recording.
No, not at all. It's raw.
Super raw, unscripted, live. And you get all the quirks, right? Like in this one, we heard Alberto, the host, kind of struggling with the live captions.
Trying to get them working right.
And figuring out how to invite speakers up, people popping in and out. It's messy, but that's kind of the point.
That authenticity is what makes it compelling, though.
Exactly. It gives the whole discussion this power, this credibility, real people, real issues, real time. You feel like you're right there listening in on something really important.
And it's fascinating how it starts, too. It's not immediately deep tech talk. There's this human grounding first.
Totally. Like what?
Well, you hear Alberto, the host, mentioning he's playing his presentation slides from a Lego party he was at weeks ago.
A Lego party?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. It's such a quirky, unexpected detail. And then there's banter about the World Cup soccer, or as Samantha, the English co-host, calls it, football.
Right. Alberto joking about men running.
Exactly. And that's self-deprecating humor, too. Alberto saying, I know nothing, even though he obviously knows a ton.
Yeah, that's classic expert humility sometimes.
And Samantha saying she's trying to stay in a bad mood, but can't because the chat's too good. These little human bits make the really heavy stuff that follows feel more accessible.
It pulls you in, makes it relatable before they hit you with the alarming tech details.
Precisely. It makes the shift into the serious topics feel even more striking.
Absolutely. It really does feel like you're just, sitting around with these experts while they hash things out, even when it's about stuff that could, literally impact your life.
That mix of casual and profound is key.
So the main voices we're hearing, just to recap for everyone listening, Alberto Daniel Hill as the host, Samantha as a co-host, and then this really central figure, Hatter, right? Also called Hackle.
Yeah, Hackle. He's a prominent cybersecurity researcher, and his own experiences, his stories, really drive a lot of the core discussion, especially about vulnerabilities and industry frustrations.
And there were others, too, like Rat and Tristan.
Right. They chime in, adding to that collaborative, almost spontaneous feel. It's not just one person lecturing.
Gotcha.
And it's quite remarkable, as you said, how fast it flips. From Lego parties and football banter to suddenly tackling these really serious, urgent cybersecurity problems.
It shows how top of mind this stuff is for them.
Exactly. It's not abstract for these folks. It's their day-to-day reality, and that urgency just comes through immediately.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. And yeah, like we said, pretty unsettling. Hackle, this researcher, starts sharing his own experiences finding critical vulnerabilities.
And what he describes is, well, it's alarming. It shows a shocking lack of readiness, even in huge companies.
Like what? What's the big example?
He talks about Rogers, the Canadian telecom giant, and he says he's successfully penetrated their infrastructure.
He personally did.
Yeah, seems so. Gain control of their Active Directory. Now, for anyone listening, Active Directory is basically the brain of a big corporate network. It manages users, computers, permissions, everything.
So getting control of that is bad.
It's game over, essentially.
Yeah.
Like having the master key to the entire building, you can pretend to be anyone, access almost anything. He found hardware and web vulnerabilities to get in.
And accessed what? Sensitive data?
He mentioned user data, credit card information, the really sensitive stuff.
Okay, wow. But maybe the company fixed it quickly?
That's the shocking part. According to Hackle, the Rogers team was, and I quote, clueless. They had no idea how to fix it.
No idea. A major company like Rogers.
Apparently not. And this incompetence, he says, led to a 3 to 4 day shutdown of the entire company.
Days. That's huge. Massive disruption for customers, for the business.
Huge. And here's the kicker. Hackle claims he could have fixed the issue in 20 to 30 minutes.
Seriously, minutes versus days.
That's his claim. And you can hear his frustration. He talks about degree holders and brainless teams of cyber defense groups who just couldn't handle it.
So it's not just a tech problem. It sounds like a people problem, a skills gap maybe, or something deeper.
Could be both. A disconnect between textbook knowledge and real-world fixing, maybe.
Yeah.
Or just, a fundamental lack of understanding within their own security teams. It's pretty damning.
Staggering. 20 minutes versus days. That points to something really broken. Okay, so that's corporate infrastructure, but you mentioned it gets even closer to home.
Yeah. If the Rogers story doesn't grab your attention, maybe this will. Medical device vulnerabilities.
Right. And this matters to you listening because, well, these aren't just computers on a desk.
Exactly. These are devices in people's bodies, devices keeping them alive. Your actual health and safety are on the line here.
So what did they say about them?
The discussion highlighted just an alarming, frankly terrifying, lack of security standards for this kind of equipment.
Lack of standards for medical tech.
Yeah. The example that really jumps out is pacemakers. Pacemakers with Bluetooth vulnerabilities.
Bluetooth on a pacemaker.
And not just any Bluetooth. They're apparently using versions that are like 6 versions older than the current standard.
6 versions old. That's ancient in tech terms. Known flaws. Probably weak encryption.
All of that on a life-critical device inside someone's chest. It's a massive, gaping security hole just waiting to be exploited.
That is genuinely terrifying. What else?
Similar concerns about diabetes monitors, the ones that send blood sugar readings to your phone.
Convenient, but...
But imagine if it gets hacked or just has a flaw and starts giving false readings. A patient acts on bad data, and you could have a serious medical situation, potentially life-threatening.
Right, taking the wrong insulin dose based on a faulty reading.
Wow. And the comparison they made in the space was really powerful. Think about medication. Medication doesn't just appear on the shelf, right? It goes through years of rigorous testing to make sure it's safe.
Of course. FDA approval, clinical trials.
Exactly. So the question they asked was, how come something that you put in your body to keep you alive? How come those items don't have any standards set against them before they go into your body, let alone tested for vulnerabilities?
That's a really good question. Why don't they?
And it's not just about the connectivity, like the old Bluetooth. Alberto made a key point. It's all the design, basically.
The fundamental design.
Yeah. He even threw out a hypothetical. Imagine if it had hard-coded some kind of trigger that after 2 years of working, it would stop. Meaning the flaws, the lack of security, it's potentially baked in right from the start. It's a design issue, not just a bug found later.
So insecure by design on devices people rely on to live. That's hard to even process.
It is deeply disturbing.
And it doesn't stop there, does it? The conversation moved beyond even medical devices and infrastructure.
Right. It broadened out to consumer product scams, showing another layer of vulnerability that hits us in everyday items, things you might buy for your kids.
Okay, like what kind of scams?
They talked about a scandal involving fake CE marks. You know the CE mark.
Yeah.
Supposedly means it meets European safety standards.
Yeah, you see it on toys, electronics.
Well, they discussed toys bought from places like Wish.com that had fake CE marks.
Yeah.
And the story was chilling. These toys apparently caused children to become infertile because of toxic plastic.
Infertile from a toy. That's horrific.
Horrific. And the fake mark was subtle. Just the spacing between the C and the E was just a little bit bigger than the real CE mark.
So easy to miss if you're not looking closely.
Exactly. And it highlights this huge problem, how easy it is to fake safety certifications and how little enforcement there often is, especially across borders. Like someone said, what Chinese manufacturer is going to hold to like European laws?
Right, a race to the bottom on safety and compliance for profit.
Pretty much. It's this Wild West situation where safety takes a backseat, leaving regular people, even kids, dangerously exposed. Not a cyber flaw in the usual sense,
Yeah.
but a supply chain and regulatory vulnerability with devastating physical consequences.
So we've got major telecoms down for days, life-saving medical tech full of holes, kids' toys causing infertility. When you put all these pieces together, what's the underlying driver? What connects all this?
The connecting thread, the blunt summary that came out of the discussion was, it's risk over money, always.
Risk over money, meaning profit comes first, safety second.
Always. That was the assertion. Companies consistently choose cheaper, older, less secure tech to cut costs and boost profits now, even when the risks are obvious, even potentially catastrophic.
Why? Is it just greed?
It's complex, but yeah, profit motive is huge. Market pressure, quarterly earnings, and maybe a calculation, a bet that a big incident won't happen, or if it does, the cost of the cleanup and fines will still be less than the cost of doing it right in the first place.
That's a cynical calculation.
It's extremely. And it's systemic. It's baked into how many businesses operate, especially when there aren't strong penalties or enforcement. Protecting the image often matters more than protecting the actual systems or the users.
This profit-first, image-first mentality. It obviously hurts users, but you mentioned it creates problems for the researchers too, the ones like Hackle trying to help.
Oh, absolutely. It creates a huge, almost impossible situation for them.
Let's unpack that side of it, the human toll on the researchers. How does the industry treat the people trying to fix things?
Okay, yeah. What was Hackle's experience?
It sounds genuinely awful. He described being attacked without any mercy, treated in a very bad way just for tweeting about the vulnerabilities he found.
Attacked for reporting security flaws.
Yeah. Labeled an extorter, called a script kiddie, which is basically saying he's unskilled, just using tools others made. Really damaging labels in that world.
Wow. Instead of things, he gets attacked. Seems like it. And Alberto, the host, jumped in, saying how much it was really pissing me off to see that happen. He talked about gatekeepers and egos in the cybersecurity community.
Gatekeepers.
Yeah, people who try to control who's seen as legitimate. Alberto said they just want to destroy others without even giving them the chance to listen.
So it's internal community politics too, not just corporate resistance.
Definitely sounds like it. An industry that should be collaborative seems, in parts at least, rife with egos, resistance to outsiders, and this tendency to shoot the messenger, especially if the message is uncomfortable.
That's incredibly counterproductive. So you have internal community issues and you have the corporate side. Why are the companies themselves so difficult when someone tries to report a flaw responsibly?
It loops right back to that core theme. Risk over money, and maybe even more specifically, image over security.
Image over security.
Yeah. The feeling from the space was that companies care more about their, and again, using the direct language here, their big fake image and their fan following, than about actually fixing security holes that put users at risk.
So they just ignore reports.
Frequently, yes.
Okay.
They don't listen when researchers report things through the proper channels.
Okay.
Or worse, they try to cover it up.
Why cover it up instead of fixing it?
Because admitting a major vulnerability is, as they put it, a marketing hell for them.
Yeah.
It spooks customers, tanks the stock price, invites lawsuits. It's a PR nightmare they'd rather avoid, even if avoidance means leaving the door wide open for attackers.
It's a calculated risk then. Bet on not getting caught or downplaying it if they do.
Exactly. And Hackle gave a specific example, trying to report issues to huge companies like multi-billion-dollar giants. He mentioned HS3C.
HS3C, who are they?
Major Chinese manufacturer. They make LED TVs, phones, motherboards, use Qualcomm chipsets. Big player.
And what happened when he tried to report to them?
His experience. Their teams were just unresponsive or brainless, either unwilling or unable to even engage with the critical security information he was trying to give them.
Just silence or dismissal.
Sounds like it. Which is more than just negligence, right?
Yeah.
It feels like an active choice to stay ignorant, to prioritize that shiny image over real security. And millions of users are left vulnerable because of it. Plus, imagine the frustration for Hackle.
Unbelievable. And that leads to the next big problem, right? If companies ignore reports and prioritize image, and the community sometimes attacks the reporters,
Yeah.
how do you hold anyone accountable?
That's the crux of it. There's this alarming lack of effective mechanisms to force accountability. Without real consequences, meaningful penalties, or strong external pressure, the incentive for these companies to change their ways is, well, pretty minimal.
Especially if fixing things is expensive or risks that precious image.
Precisely. It's a massive gap in the system. A void that lets this whole cycle of finding flaws, reporting them, being ignored, and leaving users exposed just continue over and over again.
Okay, so the picture painted is pretty bleak. Widespread flaws, companies hiding or ignoring them, researchers getting attacked. But the conversation didn't just stop there, right? They talked about solutions.
Thankfully, yes. It wasn't just complaining, it really turned into a brainstorming session, looking for ways forward. What systemic changes could actually start to fix these deep problems?
What were some of the big ideas?
One major one, which felt really urgent in the discussion, was the need for some kind of independent governing body or association.
Independent, meaning not just government.
Right. The idea was we need a powerful, authoritative body that can actually audit companies and enforce cybersecurity standards. Something
Oh.
with teeth.
More than just guidelines, real enforcement.
Exactly. Something that can impose serious penalties for not meeting standards, really hold companies accountable for the security of their products, their software, their services.
Was there a comparison made, like an example?
Yeah, they talked about the kite mark you see in the UK and EU on consumer goods.
Right, the safety certification for toys, appliances.
Yeah. And the argument was, if a kettle or a child's toy needs a mark to show it's physically safe, why doesn't a pacemaker? Or a smart car? Or the software running critical infrastructure? Shouldn't there be a similar, recognized standard for cyber safety?
That makes so much sense. A cybersecurity kite mark, basically?
Something like that. A clear, verifiable benchmark, rigorously tested and enforced,
Right.
that tells you this thing meets a certain minimum security standard. And ideally, one that works across borders.
A global standard would be huge. Okay, so a governing body. And you mentioned medical devices specifically needing attention.
Absolutely. That came up as maybe the #1 priority for action, the urgent need for cybersecurity certification for medical equipment.
A specific certification just for them?
Yes, there was total agreement on this. Given the life or death stakes, medical devices must have some kind of cybersecurity certification.
And what should that certification cover? Just data privacy?
No, crucially, much more than that. It has to cover the core firmware, that deep-level software controlling the device, and the overall design of the device. Security needs to be built in right from the start.
Secure by design, not as an afterthought.
Precisely. But the challenge, they acknowledged, is huge. You've got different laws in every country, different regulations, and even where there are proposed laws to fix this, they might not be fully intact yet, or they're just moving incredibly slowly.
So the need is obvious, urgent, but actually making it happen is lagging way behind the tech.
Way behind, leaving patients vulnerable in the meantime. It's a massive gap between the recognized need and the implemented reality.
A regulatory race against time that we seem to be losing. Okay, what about the researchers themselves, the hackles of the world? How can we empower them instead of attacking them?
That led to another really interesting idea, rethinking pen tester accreditation. Pen tester being short for penetration tester, the ethical hackers.
Okay, rethinking how they're certified.
Yeah. Moving beyond just the really expensive traditional certifications, which can cost a fortune and don't always prove real skill, towards maybe a more standardized, practical accreditation.
What would be the benefit of that?
Well, first, it would formally recognize and empower skilled researchers. But second, it could provide a clear boundary to work within, rules of engagement, ethics. And here's the radical part. Maybe that accreditation could give them actual leverage.
Leverage? How?
The idea was floated that maybe an accredited pen tester could somehow enforce the company to actually fix the vulnerability.
Whoa. Instead of just reporting and hoping.
Exactly. Right now, as Hackle found out, companies can just ignore reports. This idea hints at giving ethical hackers some mechanism to compel action.
How would that even work? Public disclosure?
That was mentioned, yeah. Maybe a platform for public disclosure, but only as a last resort. Only after a company has been totally unresponsive or uncooperative for months after being privately warned.
So a way to apply public pressure when companies stonewall?
Potentially. It's controversial, obviously, but it shows the level of frustration and the search for ways to force accountability when nothing else works.
Giving ethical hackers some teeth. That's a powerful idea. And all of this, the governing bodies, the certifications, seems to point back to something more fundamental, right?
Absolutely. It all reinforces the critical importance of early security design integration.
Meaning building security in from the start.
Exactly. It needs to be considered from the beginning, from the design, not bolted on later. Like building a house, you design the foundations to be strong from day one. You don't build the house and then try to shore up the foundations.
Because patching things later is harder, more expensive.
And often just less effective. Retrofitting security onto a product that wasn't designed for it is usually a losing game. It directly leads to the kind of widespread flaws we see everywhere. It has to be part of the blueprint.
Makes total sense. But clearly, based on the examples, it's not happening nearly enough.
Yeah.
Were there any existing efforts mentioned that try to address parts of this, even if they're incomplete?
They did touch on specialized professionals for health information security, specifically a certification called the HCP from IC,
HCP, what's that focus on?
Health Information Security and Privacy Practice. So it's really about handling medical records securely, ensuring patient privacy, managing the information systems in healthcare settings.
Okay, so securing the patient data and the hospital networks, that's important.
Definitely important. But the crucial gap they pointed out is that this certification doesn't typically focus on the security of the medical devices themselves.
Ah, so it secures the records, but not necessarily the pacemaker sending the data.
Exactly. It doesn't usually cover the inherent hardware or firmware vulnerabilities in the devices, the insulin pumps, the monitors, the pacemakers.
Still a big blind spot.
A huge one. And they talked about risk analysis in this context. Who decides what risks are important enough to even look at?
Right.
If the people doing the risk analysis don't understand or prioritize firmware-level threats on the device itself, then those risks just get ignored. They aren't even assessed.
So the experts doing the analysis might not even see the device's core flaws as being in their scope.
Precisely. It's about perception and expertise influencing what even gets considered a risk. And if firmware isn't considered, you end up with these fundamentally insecure devices connected to otherwise reasonably secure networks. It's a classic case of what you don't know can hurt you.
And in healthcare, that hurt can be literal. Okay, so the systemic solutions are complex, maybe slow-moving. What about right now? What can you, listening at home, actually do to protect yourself better?
Yeah, they offered some practical, immediate advice. Things like personal measures, segmentation, and air gapping.
Segmentation, like dividing things up.
Exactly. On your home network. For example, put your security cameras or smart home gadgets on a separate network segment from your main computers and phones.
Why does that help?
It creates a barrier. If a cheap, insecure smart plug gets hacked, the attackers are stuck in that segment. They can't easily jump over to your laptop where your financial data is.
Okay, building internal walls in your network.
Right. And ideally, you'd only access those less secure devices, like cameras, from the internal network through a VPN.
So you tunnel in securely rather than having them open to the internet?
Exactly. Now, they admitted it can be inconvenient. You might literally have to VPN in sometimes just to check your cameras.
That's a bit more hassle.
A bit more hassle, yeah.
Yeah.
But the payoff, they stressed it makes your setup 100 times more secure. Creating these logical air gaps, this separation, significantly reduces your personal risk. It's a concrete step you can take today.
That's really useful practical advice. And it's fascinating how these very specific technical things, like network segmentation, connect directly to these much bigger, almost philosophical issues we've been discussing.
Totally. It brings it right back down to our individual choices and vulnerabilities, but within this huge, complex global system.
So let's shift back to that bigger picture. The societal impact, the cultural differences, the geopolitical stuff that came up in the Twitter space.
Right, because the implications go way beyond individual devices or companies. The warning from the space was pretty stark. If things don't change, the cyber industry is going to be some kind of chaos for average people.
Chaos for average people, that sounds bad.
Yeah, not hyperbole, apparently. Just a sense that things could become increasingly unstable and dangerous online for everyone if these fundamental issues aren't addressed.
And cultural factors play a role, too.
Definitely. They talked about cultural differences in disclosure. For instance, the observation that in the UK, getting hacked is often seen as a massive embarrassment.
So companies hide it?
Leads to underreporting, yeah. Compared to the U.S., where maybe because attacks on hospitals and infrastructure are so frequent, it gets discussed more openly, which, ironically, might actually help everyone learn and improve faster.
Interesting. So secrecy hinders progress.
Seems like it. And related to that openness, or lack thereof, is the sheer rise of ransomware proliferation. It's just everywhere now.
You hear about it constantly.
It's gotten so bad, apparently, that it's triggering COBRA meetings in the UK government. That's their top-level emergency response committee.
Wow. Ransomware treated like a national security crisis.
Because it is becoming one. It can cripple hospitals, schools, local government vital services. It's not just a corporate problem anymore.
Which brings us to the targets. Why certain countries or industries? Geopolitical hacking targets. What did they say about that?
The view expressed was that the USA is a really attractive target. Why? Bigger companies, more money to be made, but also more to be had when it comes to critical infrastructure.
More valuable targets, basically.
Yeah, more potential leverage, whether it's for money or espionage or strategic disruption. And then there was this absolutely chilling detail.
What was that?
Mention of Soviet-era nuclear technology computers still being used in some critical systems.
Soviet era, still running nuclear tech. You're kidding.
Apparently not. And the comment made was that these ancient systems controlling potentially world-ending technology you can destroy with a single oaf bullet.
Oh my God. Physically fragile, let alone cyber vulnerable.
Exactly. It highlights these insane pockets of extreme vulnerability right at the heart of national security. Legacy systems controlling catastrophic power. It's terrifying to think about.
Truly terrifying. It underscores that this isn't just about software bugs. The problem goes deeper. How deep?
They stressed it goes down to the very root.
Yeah.
It impacts the firmware, that embedded code we talked about. It impacts the drivers that let hardware talk to software. Compromising a driver is a classic way in.
Okay. Firmware, drivers.
And the entire supply chain. Everything involved in making and delivering a product. A chip made in one place, assembled somewhere else, software loaded later. A vulnerability introduced anywhere along that chain can compromise the final product.
Making it incredibly hard to secure everything.
Incredibly hard. Which leads to that fundamental question. How far do you go with all of this? How much security is enough? How much is too much?
The balance between security and usability, connectivity.
Exactly. You need things to connect, to communicate, for society to function. But every connection is a potential vulnerability. It's this constant, difficult tension. There are no easy answers.
No easy answers indeed. And yet, amidst all this heavy, frankly scary stuff, what makes the original Twitter space, and hopefully our deep dive here, engaging, are those little human touches, right?
Definitely. Like the random aside about rats fighting for food, apparently inspired by Joe Rogan.
Or just mentioning eating crisps or needing coffee.
Yeah. Or Alberto's Lego Party music. Those bits keep it grounded. They remind you these are real people dealing with these huge issues, but also living normal lives. It makes the insight stick somehow.
It does. Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. Recapping our deep dive into that Alberto Daniel Hill Twitter space, we've really covered a lot.
We have the alarming scope of vulnerabilities everywhere, from medical devices to corporate networks to kids' toys.
It's shocking lack of accountability from companies, that image over security problem.
And the tough, often thankless battle that security researchers face when they try to report these flaws, being attacked instead of thanked.
But we also talked solutions, the ideas these experts debated.
Right. The call for independent governing bodies with real enforcement power, the absolute necessity of cybersecurity certifications for medical gear, focusing on the core design.
Rethinking how we accredit pen testers, maybe giving them more leverage to force fixes, and that fundamental need for security to be baked in from the very beginning.
And recognizing the gaps in current approaches, like the HCP certification not covering device firmware, plus the practical steps you can take, like network segmentation.
It's clear this isn't just a tech problem, is it?
Not at all. It's societal. It needs systemic change. It needs consumers like you to be more critical, more demanding, and it needs a fundamental shift in corporate priorities, away from just profit towards actual safety and responsibility.
So here's the final thought we want to leave you with, something to mull over. Given everything we've unpacked today, these deep, systemic issues touching your health, your data, your safety, what steps can you personally start taking?
How can you demand more transparency, more security from the tech you use every single day, especially the stuff that really matters, like healthcare devices for you or your family?
Think about the questions you can ask, the standards you can push for. How can we, collectively, start holding these companies truly accountable for the digital safety they promise, but, as we've heard, often fail to deliver?
It's a big question, but an important one.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope it gave you some valuable insights into the complex, fascinating, and yes, sometimes unsettling world of cybersecurity. Keep exploring, keep questioning.